So we're gonna factor trinomials of the form x squared and bx is c and c. Okay? What do we notice here? What's the coefficient of x squared? 1. Don't be shy. Come on in. Okay? That's a 1. This is going to be the easier ones. When it's not a 1, we need a whole new procedure to do it. Okay? But first things first. So all of these, this is going to be a 1. Okay? And remember, all of these, well, not remember, I'll tell you, we're going to factor these. Remember polynomials. You had these binomials. Okay? X minus 2, x plus 1. We said multiply. Okay? Expand. And what procedure did you use to do that? Probably FOIL, maybe area diagram. Those are the 2 recommended methods. Okay? Now we're going backwards. How many terms did you get when you first multiplied this? How many letters are in FOIL? Yeah, you got 4 terms. You got x squared and x and minus 2x. And last is minus 2. 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. 1 for each letter. Okay? You usually could collect a couple of these terms. What did you end up with? How many terms? X squared minus x minus 2. You ended up with a trinomial in this form. That's what it says. X squared plus bx plus c. You didn't know what b and c were. In this example, b is minus 1, c is minus 2. But that's exactly in this form. And what's the coefficient of x squared? 1. Okay, we got to go backwards. How do we get from here to here? It's always going to be 2 binomials. Okay, that's what we're going to do. So skip over algebra tiles. We're going to go right to investigation. So first, a little bit of practice. Polynomials. Expand. Multiply. Binomial times a binomial. FOIL. There's the first. Okay. There's the outside. There's the inside. There's the last. 4 times 2. Simplify it. Collect your 2 middle terms. What's 4x and 2x? 6x. Okay? So, x squared and 3x and 3x and 9. That's FOILed. Okay? Collect the 2 middle terms. This is so last chapter. I'm so done with this. I'm like beyond this. Okay, x squared and 7x and 1x. Don't have to write the 1. And 7. Okay, can I collect a couple things? Yep. 7x and 1x is 8x plus 7. Let's just skip that one for time's sake. Okay. This is just, it's an investigation. We're going to show, okay, because this was last chapter. We want to go backwards, but let's look at going forwards first. X squared minus 2x minus 5x. Negative times a negative. Positive. 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, so x squared minus 7x plus 10. All right. And finally, x squared minus 6x plus 8x. What's 8 times negative 6? Minus 48. Okay? Minus 6 plus 8 is plus 2x minus 48. Okay? Consider this expansion. Now I don't have numbers, nothing but letters. Okay? X times x is x squared. Outside, I got x times q. Inside is p times x. And last is p times q. It's the same thing, it's just not numbers. All you do is FOIL it. What's the connection between p and q and b? What are they talking about? Okay, in all of these, it's in the form x squared plus bx plus c. Let's highlight a couple of things. There is b. All right, what's the connection between b and p and q, these two numbers? What's the connection between 6 and 3 and 3? Can I like do something, an operation to these to get that? Okay, half of you know what it is. What's the connection between 8 and 1 and 7? Does that same connection work there? Can we add 1 and 7 and get 8? Keep going. -5 and -2. What's the connection between -5, -2, and -7? Are we still adding? Okay, that's what they're talking about. B is P plus Q. Okay. How about C? Change my color. What is C? That's this guy here. Okay. Here's the number 9. What's the connection between C and P and Q? These are the same two numbers. How do I get to 9 from 3 and 3? What do I do to 3 and 3 to get 9, Calvin? Multiply them. Let's see if it works. What's 1 times 7? Is that 7? What's -5 times -2? Isn't that the L in FOIL? Yeah. Okay, so we've already done this. C then is the product. P times Q. Okay? Use FOIL to show that x squared, okay, let's FOIL it, right? Plus xq inside is p times x. Let's put the x first. X times p. And last is p times q. Does that look like this form? It says put it in this form. Use FOIL to show that that can be written like that. Not quite. I have my x squared. I have my pq. How do I make this look like that? Could I factor an x out? Plus p and q, q and p. Well, I just got them in the opposite order, but same thing. If I factor an x out and put it after the brackets, not before, then this looks exactly the same. Okay? Why am I doing that? This is why. In order to factor this, always, 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 it's called by inspection because there's a 1 there. Like I said, if that's not a 1, we're going to need a whole new process to do this. Okay, but today this is what we're doing. We need to find two integers which have a product equal to c. Okay, here it's pq. And a sum equal to b. P and q, that is b. Okay? P and q is b. These add up to give us b. P times q is what c is. That's the L in FOIL, the two last terms multiplied by one another. Okay? That's what we do. If there are two numbers, because we're going to be nasty, we're going to give you something you can't even factor. Okay? Before you start pulling your hair out, maybe you want to have a look. Okay? If you're having trouble with it, maybe you want to note that first, because I mean, I've had some kids throw their books. It wasn't very pleasant. Okay? After trying to factor it for 15 minutes, Mr. Watson, like, what? Okay? And I come around and say, look at the answer. You can't do that one. Okay? So anyway, just to warn you, the book may give you something you can't factor. Okay? All right, so this is what we're doing. There's a trinomial. First thing you need to do is find out two numbers which multiply to C. That's 12. And add to B. That's 8. Okay? Does anyone know two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 8? Alicia? What are they? Huh? Is 2 times 6 equal to 12? Do they add to 8? Okay. The better you are with your numeracy, the easier this is going to be. And if you're not, well, there's no other way to do this. So in order to factor this, we need two numbers again which multiply to 12 and add to negative 13. Remember that prime factorization we did? 2 times 6 is 12. Well, do those add to 13? No. That is 2 times 3. That's all the factors of 12. Prime factors. Are there other factors of 12? Yeah, isn't 12 1 times 12? Ah, does that maybe add up to 13? But I have negative 13. Is 12 also negative 1 times negative 12? Okay, those are the two numbers. Okay, those multiply to 12 and they add to negative 13. Okay, let's just practice that. The sum is 12, the product is 20. What are two numbers that multiply to 20 and add to 12? Okay, they're telling us the first one, 2 and 10. What are two numbers that also multiply to 20 and add to 9? Okay, you got to think. What are all the factors of 20? You got to find some combination, right, that add to 9. And then double check. You had that, Taylor? Good job. Keep it up. What are two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 4? What are your choices for 4? It's either 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. Yeah, okay? The bigger the number is, the more choices you have. If you get something like 48, oh, that's my last one. Okay, that one's going to be a little tricky, right? What multiplies to 18 and adds to negative 9? 18 is 1 times 18. It's got to be negative, so they both have to be negative, because remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, but that doesn't add to 9. What else goes into 18? Yeah. 6 times 3 is 18. Negative 3 times negative 6 is also 18. Do those add to negative 9? Yes. Okay. 14. What multiplies to 14 and adds to negative 15? You remember this last one we did here? If it adds to something bigger than the number itself, as a little trick, it's always got to be 14, the number itself, and 1. But yeah, it's negative, so careful. That's got to be negative times a negative gives you positive. Okay? Negative 6, product's negative. Ooh, what does that mean? That means one of the numbers has to be a negative and one of them has to be a positive, right? If I add 3 and negative 2, does that give me positive 1 or negative 1? Yeah, so I must have these backwards. That's also a product of negative 6, and now it adds to negative 1. Okay? So you just got to kind of run through the numbers, make sure it works before you move on to the next question. Okay, negative 15. What multiplies to negative 15 and what adds to 2? Well, I know 5 times 3 is 15. The difference looks like 2, but one of these has to be a negative to make the product negative. Is that add to positive 2? No, that's negative 2, so it must be 5 times negative 3. Okay? So the first few is going to be just playing around trying to find these two numbers, if they exist. 48. Lots and lots of factors of 48. Okay? That's 2 times 24. Oh, I think I might got it already. Okay? 4 times 12, right? 6 times 4. You keep working it. If you double 2, you get 4. You half 24, right? If I double 4, I get 8. What's half of 12? See how this kind of works? That's also 8 times 6, right? Are there other options? Yeah, 1 times 48. Okay? So 48, 2, and 24. How am I going to make it so it works? They got to add to negative 26. Does that work? Yeah. Double check it. 2 times 24 is 48. Negative times a negative is a positive. Those add to negative 26. Okay? And to make it nice, the rest of this lesson, it's all going to be positive. So we're not even going to have those to start. Okay? This is tricky stuff. So we're going to go slowly, make sure we get it. There's a couple examples and you're on your own. Factor. If you can. What's the first thing we're going to do to try to factor this? First of all, it's going to factor into two binomials. Okay? It's the opposite of FOILing. Remember, factoring is the opposite of multiplying. You only have one choice here. What times what is x squared? X times x. Now, what multiplies to 12 and what adds to positive 8? Have we already done this one? That's your two numbers. Plus 6 and plus 2. It's factored.
Does it matter what?
No. Let me emphasize. These are the factors of this trinomial. Just like before, we said, what are all the factors of 12? Those are the factors of 12. These are the factors of this trinomial. Okay? Does it matter what order they're in? Is 6 times 2 the same as 2 times 6? Yeah. Okay? So it doesn't matter if you got x plus 2 times x plus 6 or x plus 6 times x plus 2. Okay? Doesn't matter. This is helpful. See how I did my little table there? Okay? It helps. I know this thing is going to be x and x. Now what are the two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 13? Have we seen this one before too? Close. I think it was a negative. What multiplies to 12 and adds to 13? 12 and 1. Could we check this before we went on to the next question? Yeah. Quickly. X times x is x squared. That's F in FOIL. Outside, I got 12x. Inside, I have 1x. How many x is 12x and 1x? 13x. Last is 1 times 12, 12. Like I said yesterday, you should never get one of these wrong because you can always check it. Okay? Why even look in the answers? You should check every one. Good practice. Especially if we didn't really get polynomials that well in the test. Okay? What two numbers multiply to 12 and add to negative 13? X minus 12, x minus 1. Okay? So the two numbers are negative 12 and negative 1. Those multiply to positive 12. Those add minus 1x. Minus 12x, that's minus 13x. Okay? What multiplies to 10 and adds to negative 11? We're getting lots of these. Okay, it's not an x now, it's an a. But what's a times a? A squared. That's your only choice, right? 10 minus and 1. Negative 1 and negative 10 multiply to 10, and they add to minus 11. I got a y. Oh no, what do I do now? Liam, what do I do? Help me. What times what is y squared? Y times y is y squared. What's the two numbers? What multiplies to 4 and adds to 3? You got two choices. It's either 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. 4 times 1 is 4, but those add, if they're positive, to 5y, don't they? What are my two numbers? Plus 4 and minus 1. Okay? Double check it. Y squared, check. 4y minus 1y is 3y. Check. Okay? Negative times a positive. Oh, is that positive? Huh. Let's look at this again. What multiplies to 4 and adds to 3? Like I said, you got two choices. 2 and 2. Can that ever add to 3? 4 and 1. In order to multiply to positive 4, they're either both positive or both negative. Either I got 5 when they add, or I have negative 5. Remember this part? Nice. Can't do it. Cannot factor it. Okay? Doesn't work. Okay. What multiplies to 50 and adds to 27? Little bigger, little uglier. Don't yell it out. Everyone wants to go 10 times 5, right? Can that add to 27? But 50 is also, okay, here's 50 prime factorized. It's 5 times 10. It's also 2 times 25, isn't it? If you prime factorize it, like that's your only possibilities. 25 times 2 is 50. What's 25 plus 2? Yeah, okay. Bingo, works. Okay. Remember, all of these were in this form. What was my coefficient of x? Yeah. What's this coefficient of x? Sorry, x squared. 4. Read the question. That's what you did yesterday. Now we're doing it and adding it to today's stuff. If always, if you can make your life easier, right now you guys don't even know how to do this one, okay? Because a is not 1 here, right? When I say a, I mean they can all be written like this form. But today they're all 1. How do I get rid of that 4? Is there a common factor to all 3 of these terms I can take out? Yeah, it's 4. Okay? If I take a 4 out of a 4x squared, what do I have left? X squared. What's 32x divided by 4? 8x. What's 48 divided by 4? 12. Before you do the next thing, check it. Make sure it's the same thing. Multiply it back. 4x squared, check. Minus 32x, check. Plus 48, okay, that's the same thing. All right? I didn't make a mistake yet. Next step, pretend that 4 isn't even there. Okay? If it helps visually, put it way over there. What two numbers multiply to 12 and add to negative 8? I got 4 and 3. I got 6 and 2. But that's not negative. Now that works. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay? Those are my two numbers. So I got 4 times, remember this is a trinomial. It becomes 2 binomials. My two numbers are -6 and -2. Now let's bring the 4 back. Okay? Declutter your brain. Just put it aside for a while. Don't even look at that. Okay? Could I check to see that this is the same as that? Yeah. Okay? But I already did the 4 part. I know this is the same as that. So let's just look at the FOILing. I got x squared, check. Minus 2x minus 6x, that's minus 8x. Negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12. This is the same as this. And this is the same as that. Therefore, this is the right answer. Okay? I don't even need to check the answer. I know it's right. Okay? Look at your 3 numbers. Is there something I can take out first? Yeah. And like, it's easy today because if there isn't a 1 there, I haven't taught you how to do that. So they're all going to do that, all right? So take a 3 out. What do I have left? X cubed? Cubed? How many times does 3 go into 21? 7. X squared. How many times does 3 go into 30? 10. Still have an x. By the way, everything we've been doing, that's called a quadratic. This is called a cubic. Have we done one like this? No. Okay. Is there something else I can factor out of here? Yeah. I can still take an x out. Right? That's not the greatest common factor of this thing. 3x is. So I need to take another x out because I don't know how to do this cube thing. Okay? Everything goes down by a power of x. Now it looks like what we've been doing. Ax squared plus bx plus c. There's no x where this c is. Okay? We don't know how to do that. Okay? So if you got an x here in your last term, you must have to factor out another x, right? Okay? All right. Ignore the 3x. Don't even look there. What 2 numbers multiply to 10 and add to 7? Is it 10 and 1 or 5 and 2? Yeah, you only got 2 choices for 10, right? 5 times 2 is 10 and 5 plus 2 is 7. So this thing becomes 3x. That's going to be 2 binomials. X times x is x squared. My numbers are 5 and 2. Okay? Now I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. If we're not getting this, come in and get help. Because if you put it off 2 or 3 days, you're going to be lost. It'll be the point of no return. Okay? You have to get this to do tomorrow's stuff. It's easy to fall behind. This stuff's really important. Okay? So come in, ask, I'm here. Don't put it off. So 4 to 10, 12 to 15, 7 is tons. So just in 7, just do the odds, okay? And I think that will take out all of the ones that aren't possible. Okay, but if you want to look ahead, just to make sure, notice it says, where possible, just so you don't pull your hair out if you want to check to see which ones aren't first and cross them off. But I think if we just do the odds, we're okay. All right? So I don't want to see any books go flying.